Hello. Welcome to day 275. I'm going to start by going over a little bit of what we read in NTI Romans in this past week, starting with something that I highlighted from NTI Romans chapter 8. It says, "Behold, look at the world. This is the expression of self-will, which you desired." NTI Romans is the story of how we came into an experience, which is typically called illusion or a dream, how we came into the experience of something that is different from our reality. Remember, the story is that this curiosity arose, and the curiosity was something like, what if everything was different than it is? That curiosity, that desire for something different than truth, different than reality, could be called self-will. And so self-will could be called the root of experience, or the root of the world, or the root of illusion, or the dream. And so you could also say that the curiosity was kind of like, would I prefer my own way? Would I prefer self-will, my own creation? Or do I prefer reality, truth, what is natural? And that's why NTI Romans says, behold, look at the world. This is the expression of self-will, which you desired. And if we look at the world, most of us can see the suffering that self-will causes. Wars, racism, political divide, child abuse, spouse abuse, sexual abuse, crime, the list just goes on and on. But you can look at those things and you can see how they came from self-will. You can see self-will at work in the world. We could also call self-will self-centeredness, selfishness. It's the nature of the ego. And so NTI Romans chapter 8 goes on to say, and now you know that you do not want this desire or these thoughts. You don't want this selfishness that causes pain. What you want is love. That's what you really desire. Peace, happiness, at easeness. You don't desire self-will. Sometimes we think self-will will bring us love, happiness, peace, at easeness. But it's not the self-will we want. It's the love, the happiness, the peace, the at easeness. That's what we want. And now you know that you do not want this desire, self-will, or these thoughts, right? We want truth. We want reality. If I skip on over to NTI Romans chapter 10, and I think NTI Romans chapter 11, these chapters were very encouraging. These chapters were telling us that we have always wanted truth. We have always wanted reality. And it says it in a few different ways. It says that within our willingness for truth, for reality, joins with our own Holy Spirit. And this creates our path to freedom. But what is our own Holy Spirit? We're told in NTI Romans that our own Holy Spirit is the part of us that has never forgotten truth, the part of us that has always loved reality. You remember at the beginning of NTI Romans, we were told that when we had that curious idea, what would it be like if everything was different than it is, that two options were born. And for the first time, we had a decision to make. One was that nothing has changed, everything is as it is. The other was that everything was now different. And it says we tossed the first option aside. But what NTI Romans tells us from the reading this week is when we toss that option aside, we didn't really reject that option. That our love of truth, our love of love, our love of happiness, our love of peace, our love of at easeness, our love of comfort has always been there. We just kind of put it in the background and we began to focus on the foreground of illusion or self-will, my way. But it tells us that we have never, ever actually rejected option A. What we have always wanted is option A. And it tells us really that that option A is beginning to come out of repression and become more conscious to us as our true desire, or else we wouldn't even be able to read these words in NTI. NTI wouldn't even hold our interest. It says, when you find willingness, clasp hands with your Holy Spirit. This is your inner knowing of your true desire. Walk forward in trust and willingness. This is your desire awakened or brought out of repression, and it is leading you home or back to what you really want. It also says, rejoice, for you are listening to me, right? You are bringing that choice A back out of repression. You are walking with me. And don't listen to that voice that tells you you're not, right? That voice that wants you to repress this idea of truth, this idea of desire for truth, by convincing you that you're not good enough for it or that you don't desire it enough. Don't listen to that voice. You are bringing choice A back out of repression. You are embracing choice A, the desire for truth as it is. It says, you are willing and you are finding your readiness to accept me fully now. Again, if that were not true, these words would not call to you. They would not hold your interest. You would be blinded to their meaning through your own desire not to acknowledge them yet. It says, do not fear that you have rejected yourself by rejecting the whole. Do not feel that you are guilty for what you have not done. You have always accepted me. You have always found comfort in me. I have always been with you through your true desire, not to reject the whole or not to reject the truth. Do not fear when you go off into fantasies and seem to forget that I am here, because I am still here. Even if I'm thrown back into repression, I am still here, even if you do not remember me. I am with you always because I am where you desire me to be. You want me to be right here. You want the voice for truth to be right here so you can find your way home when you are ready. So very encouraging words. Leo, I think, talked about the same thing in his own way in the little clip, the little 5-minute clip that we watched this weekend. He said that really what you want is a profoundness of life, right? That profound experience of life. He said what you really want is a profound connection to life that brings you to tears. That's that profound connection to the whole, that profound connection to reality. He says that's what you really want. You really want the choice A. And his advice to you on how to really start getting in touch with this is feel into the fact that you're conscious and alive now, right? We spent a while, some weeks back, just meditating by focusing on our experience of being, right? And now we're just being aware. And this is going to help wake up that profound connection to life. And you know what that profound connection to life is? It's seeing that I and life are one, right? I and life are one. That is the profound connection to life. He says that's connecting to spirit, or that's connecting to consciousness. He also says people have known how to live this. He calls it the good life for over 5,000 years. And what I assume he's referring to is Krishna, right? The Bhagavad Gita was written around 5,000 years ago, and it points to truth. or Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, was written around 5,000 years ago, and it points to truth. And of course, 2,500 years ago, we have more recent examples, Buddha and Jesus, right? And then, of course, we have even more recent examples from the 20th century, Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj. People have always awakened to choice A and re-accepted choice A and decided they no longer wanted choice B. And that's what we're doing now. That's why on this day 275, we are still with NTI. We're still with the 500 days curriculum. He says you can't have the good life so long as you're deluded by all of the programming that has been injected into your mind like a virus, hijacking your natural spiritual connection to reality. All of the thoughts in our mind about the world are a product of the illusion. They're a product of self-will. They're a product of the wish for something different. And so we can't be deluded by all of that. Deluded really means believing it. Instead, we need to be just more interested in our connection to spirit, more interested in our daily walkabout practices. He says, no one can do this work but you. And of course, no one can do these daily walkabout practices for you but you. Let me look a little bit at our daily walkabout practices. So in the last week, we did a lot of asking questions. Some of the questions we asked continually, which really means as often as we remembered. Here is one. Do I want to continue to believe what I have always believed? Or am I willing to let go of my beliefs in order to discover reality? Well, as Leo said, you can't have the good life so long as you're deluded by all of the programming that has been injected into your mind like a virus. This is what I've always believed, hijacking your natural spiritual connection to reality. We spent 2 days asking ourselves this question. Notice you aren't asked to answer the question, you just asked to ask the question. That's because within us, the knowing is there that choice A is what we really want. The knowing is within us is that choice B, we are becoming done with that, right? And so just by asking the question, we bring that knowing forward. Do I want to continue to believe what I have always believed? The programming that has been injected into my mind like a virus, hijacking my natural spiritual connection to reality. Or am I willing to let go of my beliefs, my programming, in order to discover reality? We also spent a day noticing when there was this unnecessary talk in the mind, like, okay, I think I'll pick up my phone now and go look at Facebook. Oh, look what so-and-so is saying in Facebook. I want you all that just chatter, chatter, chatter. And whenever we noticed that chatter, we said, thought is adding a sense of self to this experience. Just noting that every time we noticed the thinking in our mind. We also spent some time taking 5-minute breaks and watching the thoughts, noticing all of the thoughts that come and go, and noticing the changeless self, and then asking, which am I, the thoughts that change or the isness that is constant? All of these types of exercises are the work that no one can do for us but us. And they're the work that really is going to help us let go of the desire for something different than reality and bring us back in touch with our natural spiritual connection to reality. As we go into our new week, we're going to continue with walkabout exercises. We'll continue with NTI Romans. This will be our last week with NTI Romans. We will finish it up this week, and then next week we'll begin NTI 1 Corinthians. So in addition to finishing NTI Romans this week, we're going to be preparing ourselves for NTI 1 Corinthians. The exercises, the walkabout exercises, vary a little bit each day. But one thing I would like to point out is that day 280 is very focused. Here's what it says for day 280. As you go about your day, notice your individual will, your wants, and your desires. What do you notice about it? So what do you notice about your individual will? And then it has several questions. Is it self-centric or self-centered, we could say? Does it conflict with anyone else's will? Does it conflict with itself? For example, does one desire conflict with another desire? Does your individual will create new problems? Does it upset or cause suffering for you or anyone else? Does it accept people and things as they are, or does it want them to be different? Does it want to control people or events? Has it been consistent over your entire lifetime, or has your self-will changed? Are you willing to surrender your will for the will of oneness? Now, it's easy to walk around, or somewhat easy. Resistance may make it challenging, but it's easy to walk around and continually ask one question throughout the day. But on day 280, you're going to be looking at all of these things. So what I recommend is taking different breaks throughout the day, and especially taking a long break at night before you go to bed. So throughout the day on day 280, notice your individual will. Notice your I want this. I want this to be different. I want this to come to me. I want to avoid that. Pay attention. And then maybe when you go to the bathroom, sit down and look at the I wants that have been there since the last time you went to the bathroom and ask these questions. Or maybe at the end of the day, sit down and do some journaling. Ask these questions about the I wants that you've noticed throughout the day. Or maybe a combination of both. It'll be a wonderful, eye-opening, self-honest, truthful day if you put the effort into it. All of the other days will be a little simpler, of course, but still hopefully enlightening. And again, we'll finish NTI Romans 16 this week. This is also our last week with the type of meditation where we are just being aware as deeply as we can, being aware of sensations, being aware of sounds, maybe noticing thought from awareness instead of being involved in the thought. In fact, you may have noticed that you aren't really aware and lost in thought at the same time. Thought is kind of like this. Thought is kind of like this. If this is your attention, right? When your attention is not inside thought, you can be aware of all the things that are in the environment. But when attention goes into thought, you're only aware of the inside of the thought. Everything else kind of disappears from your awareness, right? You're just in here, and that's all you know. And everything outside you do not know. So I'm sure that you've noticed, in order to really be aware of thoughts from the outside, feelings, sounds, sensations, you need to keep your attention withdrawn from thought. Keep your attention from going into thought. So we have one more week to practice that. And then next week, as we begin NTI 1 Corinthians, we will also begin a new meditation practice. All right, that's all I have for you today. Enjoy the rest of your journey with NTI Romans. Give day 280 your best, as well as all of the walkabout practices, and enjoy your last week with the awareness meditation. Bye.